Nathan Cole shoved the glass door of the presidential maternity suite open with his shoulder, balancing a glossy Tiffany blue gift bag in one hand and an expensive bouquet of imported white orchids in the other. "Emily," he called casually, loosening the knot of his silk tie. "You won't believe the traffic getting back from Chicago. Look what I found at Tiffany's. You said you liked." His words died. The room was silent. Too silent. The hospital bed was perfectly made. The heart monitor had already been unplugged. The bassinet beside the bed stood empty. Even the baby blankets were gone. Only the faint smell of disinfectant lingered in the air. Nathan frowned. "Mom?" His mother, Margaret Cole, stood by the window folding a worn gray cardigan into a canvas travel bag. She didn't turn around. "Where's Emily?" No answer. Nathan placed the orchids on the table. Did they move her to another room? Or is she visiting the NICU? You know she shouldn't be walking yet. Still nothing. Finally, Margaret zipped the bag closed. Only then did she slowly face him. Nathan immediately noticed her swollen eyes. Not from crying. From disappointment. The kind that settled into someone's face after every tear had already been spent. She checked herself out. Nathan blinked. "What?" "4 days ago." He laughed. "Amazing." He sat comfortably in the leather chair. "So she's still angry." Margaret remained expressionless. "About missing the delivery?" Nathan shrugged. "I already explained. The investors' conference couldn't wait." He casually reached for an apple from the fruit basket. There were specialists here. The best doctors. Private nurses. "You. What exactly did she need me to do? Deliver the babies myself?" Margaret slowly reached into her bag. Without saying another word, she placed a thin white envelope on top of the Tiffany gift bag. Nathan smiled. "What now? Another complaint letter?" His fingers lazily opened the envelope. The smile vanished. His eyes froze. "Petition for dissolution of marriage." The bold black letters stared back at him. Nathan read the first line again. Then again. His jaw tightened. "Divorce?" He looked up. Margaret's voice was colder than he'd ever heard. "Congratulations. You finally pushed her far enough." 6 days earlier, Emily Cole stared at her reflection in the bedroom mirror. 34 weeks pregnant. Triplets. Her belly stretched the soft cotton maternity dress until it looked ready to split. Her ankles had swollen so badly that she'd borrowed Nathan's oversized slippers. Walking from the bedroom to the bathroom now felt like climbing a mountain. She placed one trembling hand beneath her stomach. The babies kicked. One, then another, then the third. She smiled despite herself. "Easy. I'm trying." Her phone buzzed. "Nathan." She opened the message. "Flight delayed another 48 hours. Investor meetings keep getting extended. Use the black card if you need anything. I wired another $80,000 just in case. Tell the nanny to order whatever you want." Emily stared at the screen. That was it. "No." "How are you feeling?" "No." "How did today's appointment go?" "No." "Is everything okay with the babies?" "Just money. Always money." She typed. "Doctor says I may need an emergency C-section if the bleeding gets worse." She stared at the message, then slowly deleted every word. Instead, she sent only, "Okay." Less than 3 seconds later, her banking app chimed. "Incoming transfer, $80,000. Emily laughed softly. Not because it was funny. Because after 7 years of marriage, she finally realized this was how Nathan apologized. Not with time. Not with presents. Not with love. With wire transfers. She carried her cup of warm tea toward the sofa. Halfway there, her lower back cramped violently. She stopped. Breathed. Waited. The pain faded. Braxton Hicks. Probably. She lowered herself carefully onto the couch. Her phone vibrated again. This time, Instagram. Sophia Hart added to her story. Emily almost ignored it. Almost. Then curiosity won. She tapped. The video began. Elegant violin music. Luxury rooftop restaurant. Gold balloons. A 3-layer chocolate cake. A glittering candle shaped like the number 30. Someone laughed behind the camera. Sophia. Oh my God, Nathan. You still remembered. The camera turned. A man's hand reached into frame holding a silver cake knife. Emily's breathing stopped. The Rolex. The burn scar near his thumb. The platinum wedding band. Nathan. He smiled as he sliced the cake. Happy birthday. Emily stared at the screen. 1 second. 2. 3. Then, a violent pain exploded through her abdomen. She gasped. The teacup slipped from her fingers. It shattered across the hardwood floor. Warm liquid rushed between her legs. Her water had broken. Oh. She grabbed the edge of the sofa. No. Another contraction hit. This one stole her breath completely. She collapsed onto one knee. Lisa. Their housekeeper came running. Mrs. Cole. The hospital. Emily whispered. Call an ambulance. And she looked once more at Nathan's smiling face on Sophia's birthday story. Don't tell him yet. Another contraction bent her nearly double. He's busy. The ambulance sirens echoed through the quiet neighborhood. Inside, Emily clutched her stomach. While somewhere hundreds of miles away, her husband laughed as he handed another slice of birthday cake to the woman he'd sworn was just an old friend. The ambulance doors burst open before the vehicle had fully stopped. 34-week triplet pregnancy. Premature rupture of membranes. Heavy vaginal bleeding. The emergency team rushed Emily through the brightly lit hallway. The wheels of the stretcher rattled violently across the polished floor. Every bump sent another wave of agony through her abdomen. She gritted her teeth so hard her jaw trembled. A nurse glanced at the chart. Blood pressure 80/50. Another looked between Emily's legs. We're losing too much blood. The automatic doors to labor and delivery flew open. Doctors surrounded her instantly. The senior obstetrician didn't waste a second. We need an emergency C-section. He looked around. Where's her husband? Emily forced herself to answer. Out of town. We need him. I'm here. No. The doctor shook his head. This is a high-risk triplet delivery. He spoke carefully. Mrs. Cole, there's a possibility we'll have to remove your uterus if the bleeding becomes uncontrollable. Emily's fingers tightened around the metal rail. If complications happen, someone has to make that decision. The room became painfully quiet. The doctor turned to a nurse. Call the husband immediately. Lisa already had Nathan's number on speaker. Ring. 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 Voicemail. She called again. Nothing. Again. Still nothing. Emily reached weakly toward the phone. Give. Lisa placed it into her shaking hand. Emily pressed call herself. The ringtone echoed in the room. Every second felt longer than the last. Finally, call failed. She stared blankly. She dialed again. No answer. Again. 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 Chicago. The ballroom glittered beneath enormous crystal chandeliers. Business executives laughed over champagne. A jazz band played softly in the background. At the center of it all, Sophia Hart smiled as photographers snapped pictures. Everyone, she announced. I couldn't celebrate 30 without my oldest friend. Nathan raised his wine glass. Happy birthday. The guests applauded. Sophia laughed. You've never missed one. Nathan smiled. I said I wouldn't. Just then, his phone vibrated. Then vibrated again. Then again. His executive assistant, Daniel Brooks, frowned at the screen. Mr. Cole. Nathan barely looked. What? It's your wife. Nathan sighed. I'll call her later. Daniel swallowed. There are already 12 missed calls. Nathan finally accepted the phone. Before he could answer, Sophia touched his arm. Seriously? She pouted. You promised. Nathan looked at her. Then at the buzzing phone. Then toward the photographers waiting nearby. One investor laughed. Family emergency? Nathan chuckled awkwardly. No. He pressed one button. Power off. Daniel stared. Sir. Nathan handed the phone back. If it's really urgent, the hospital knows what they're doing. He adjusted his jacket. I'm not a doctor. Another executive nodded approvingly. Exactly. No reason to panic. Nathan smiled confidently. People overreact. My wife has the best medical team money can buy. He picked up the cake knife. Let's finish celebrating. Flash. 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 The cameras captured him smiling beside Sophia. At the exact moment his wife was fighting for her life. Back at the hospital, Lisa stared at the black phone screen. He turned it off. The room went silent. Even the nurses stopped moving for a second. The doctor slowly removed his glasses. He turned it off. Lisa nodded, tears filling her eyes. I think so. Emily closed her eyes. Oddly, she didn't cry. Not anymore. She already knew why. Sophia's birthday. He'd chosen uninterrupted cake over interrupted surgery. The realization hurt far more than the contractions. The doctor looked down at the unsigned surgical forms. We cannot wait. He placed the clipboard before Emily. I need your signature. She stared at the page. One sentence stood out. High-risk surgical consent. Risk of maternal death. Her vision blurred. The babies kicked again. Almost as if reminding her. We're still here. Emily slowly reached for the pen. Her fingers shook so violently she almost dropped it. The nurse tried to help. Emily gently stopped her. No. If. She swallowed painfully. If I can sign mortgage papers. And school applications. And insurance forms. I can sign this. She painfully wrote her own name. Emily Rose Cole. The signature looked crooked. Uneven. Weak. But it was enough. The doctor nodded. Move. Within seconds, the operating room exploded into motion. Blue surgical gowns. Bright lights. Sterile instruments. Machines beeping faster every second. Emily was rolled beneath the enormous surgical lamp. Its white light filled her entire world. The anesthesiologist leaned over her. Mrs. Cole, stay with us. We're going to save you. As the anesthesia slowly spread through her body, Emily stared at the ceiling. Not thinking about Nathan. Not thinking about Sophia. Not thinking about betrayal. Only 3 tiny heartbeats, waiting to meet their mother. Outside the operating room, Lisa looked once more at Nathan's disconnected phone number. She whispered through tears. I hope that cake was worth it. Then the operating room doors slammed shut. The operating room became a blur of movement. Scalpel. Blood pressure dropping. Prepare another unit. The overhead surgical light burned into Emily's eyes until everything else disappeared. The anesthesiologist squeezed her shoulder. Emily, stay awake. Talk to me. She tried. Nothing came out. Another monitor began screaming. Beep. The senior surgeon looked toward the anesthesiologist. She's bleeding faster than expected. Estimated blood loss? Already 1,800 milliliters. We're nowhere near done. A nurse hurried toward the blood refrigerator. We're almost out of O negative. Call the blood bank. Outside the operating room, Lisa paced back and forth. Her hands refused to stop shaking. Nathan's number. Again. She dialed. The number you are trying to reach is currently unavailable. Again. Unavailable. Again. Unavailable. She looked toward the operating room doors. They're dying, she whispered. And he turned his phone off. Chicago. Sophia laughed as another gift box appeared. Oh, Nathan. You spoil me. Nathan smiled. You deserve it. One of the investors raised his glass. To new beginnings. Everyone cheered. Daniel stood quietly in the corner. His own phone buzzed. Unknown hospital number. He answered immediately. This is Daniel Brooks. The charge nurse almost shouted. Where's Mr. Cole? Daniel looked toward Nathan. She interrupted. His wife is hemorrhaging. The surgeon needs authorization immediately. Daniel's face drained of color. I'll get him. He hurried across the ballroom. Sir. Nathan barely looked away from Sophia. What now? It's the hospital. Nathan sighed loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. They still haven't handled it? Daniel lowered his voice. They're saying your wife may not survive. For just a fraction of a second. Nathan hesitated. Then one investor laughed. Medical staff always dramatize situations. Another nodded. They're protecting themselves legally. Sophia gently touched Nathan's sleeve. They've got doctors. You promised tonight was mine. Nathan looked around. Every important client in the room was watching. He couldn't disappear now. Not during the biggest acquisition of his career. He reached into Daniel's hand, took the ringing phone, and without even checking who was calling, he pressed decline. Daniel stared. Sir. Nathan handed the phone back. My wife worries too much. The hospital is doing surgery. They don't need me standing there panicking. He smiled toward the guests. Now, who's ready for dessert? The applause resumed. Daniel didn't clap. For the first time in 5 years working for Nathan, he couldn't even look at him. Manhattan General Hospital. Emily drifted somewhere between consciousness and darkness. Voices echoed around her. Clamp. More suction. We're losing visibility. The pain had disappeared. That frightened her even more. She felt nothing. Only cold. So incredibly cold. The surgeons suddenly shouted. We have the first baby. A tiny cry pierced the room. Weak. Fragile. Beautiful. Emily smiled. Just barely. Seconds later. The second. Another tiny cry. Then. The third. The smallest cry of all. 3 little voices. 3 little miracles. Emily wanted to ask if they were okay. Her lips wouldn't move. The heart monitor suddenly screamed again. Blood pressure. 60/30. The anesthesiologist looked up sharply. She's crashing. The room erupted. Another transfusion. Move. Push epinephrine. The surgeon's forehead glistened with sweat. The uterus won't contract. Damn it. Massage. Nothing. More medication. Nothing. Blood continued pouring onto the surgical drapes. The circulating nurse quietly whispered, If this doesn't stop. The surgeon finished her sentence. We lose her. Emily heard every word. She couldn't open her eyes. Couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Yet somehow, she heard everything. And in that strange darkness, one memory surfaced. Nathan smiling, holding Sophia's birthday cake, laughing, while her phone kept ringing unanswered. Something inside Emily quietly broke. Not dramatically. Not with anger. Not with tears. Like a rope stretched for years. Finally snapping. She understood something she'd never allowed herself to admit. Nathan hadn't abandoned her tonight. He'd been leaving. One unanswered moment at a time. For years. Missed anniversaries. Missed ultrasounds. Missed holidays. Missed dinners. Missed miscarriages. Missed conversations. Tonight was simply the first time. It almost cost her life. She wasn't dying because Nathan missed one phone call. She was dying after 7 years of being his last priority. A tear escaped beneath her closed eyelid. Not for herself. For the 3 babies. If she disappeared, who would choose bedtime stories over board meetings? Who would remember their favorite colors instead of their trust funds? Who would hold them when they cried instead of hiring another nanny? Certainly not Nathan. Not the man who believed a wire transfer could replace a father. Somewhere deep inside, Emily made herself one promise. If I survive, my children will never grow up begging for their father's attention the way I begged for my husband's. Pulses stabilizing. The anesthesiologist looked at the monitor. 80/55. The surgeon finally exhaled. We've got her. A nurse almost collapsed into the wall with relief. One by one, the frantic alarms became slower, then quieter. Finally, only the steady rhythm remained. Beep, beep, beep. The surgeon removed her gloves. She looked down at Emily. You won. 36 hours later, Emily slowly opened her eyes inside the intensive care unit. The room was quiet except for machines humming around her. Every breath hurt. Every muscle ached. Her lips felt cracked. She tried to move. Pain exploded across her abdomen. The night nurse immediately noticed. Easy. You've had major surgery. Emily swallowed painfully. My babies? The nurse smiled. They're fighters. All 3 are in the NICU. They're tiny, but stable. Emily closed her eyes in relief. Then asked the question everyone expected. Nathan. The nurse hesitated. She checked the chart. Then answered honestly. He hasn't come. Emily stared silently at the ceiling. No disappointment. No surprise. No tears. Only acceptance. She already knew the answer. Long before she asked. The intensive care room was unusually quiet. The machines beeped with steady rhythm. Outside the large window, the morning sun painted soft golden lines across the hospital parking lot. Emily hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Nathan smiling beside Sophia's birthday cake. Not because she loved him anymore. Because her mind couldn't understand how someone could choose frosting over family. The door opened quietly. Lisa walked in carrying a small bouquet of fresh daisies. Unlike the expensive orchids Nathan always bought, these flowers came from the hospital gift shop. Only $12. But Lisa had picked them herself. I thought the room needed something cheerful. Emily managed a faint smile. They're beautiful. Lisa carefully placed them beside the bed. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. Finally, Lisa couldn't hold it in anymore. I'm sorry. Emily frowned. For what? I should have called him sooner. You called him 17 times. I should have kept trying. Emily slowly shook her head. No. Lisa looked confused. Emily stared toward the ceiling. If someone wants to answer, one call is enough. The doctor entered moments later. Dr. Rebecca Hayes, one of the state's leading maternal-fetal specialists. She carried Emily's chart beneath one arm. Good morning. Emily tried sitting straighter. Instantly, pain shot through her abdomen. Dr. Hayes gently stopped her. Don't. You lost nearly 3 liters of blood. Your body is still recovering. She flipped through several pages. The babies are doing surprisingly well. Emily finally smiled. Can I see them? In a little while. Dr. Hayes hesitated. There is something else. Emily's smile faded. The hemorrhage caused more damage than we expected. Emily quietly waited. We managed to save your uterus. But only barely. Another pause. If surgery had started even 15 or 20 minutes later. Dr. Hayes didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Emily already understood. She had almost died waiting for a man who had chosen birthday candles instead of answering his phone. An hour later, a wheelchair rolled toward the NICU. Emily's movements were painfully slow. Every bump reminded her of the fresh incision across her stomach. The automatic doors opened. Rows of incubators stretched across the softly lit room. Tiny heart monitors blinked. Tiny blankets. Tiny hats. Tiny lives. A nurse smiled. They're over here. Emily held her breath. 3 clear incubators stood side by side. Each baby barely larger than a loaf of bread. The first yawned. The second stretched one impossibly tiny hand. The third slept peacefully beneath a knitted blue blanket. Emily pressed trembling fingers against the glass. Hi. Her voice cracked immediately. I'm Mom. I know. This isn't how I imagined meeting you. A tear slipped down her cheek. But I promise. She smiled through it. I'm going to do better. The babies slept peacefully, completely unaware that their mother had nearly died bringing them into the world. Later that afternoon, Nathan finally called. Lisa silently handed Emily the phone. Nathan's name filled the screen. For a long moment, Emily simply looked at it, then answered. Nathan. His voice sounded irritated. I've been trying to reach the hospital. Emily remained silent. The conference finally wrapped up. Silence. My flight lands tomorrow morning. Still silence. I heard surgery went well. Emily finally spoke. It did. Nathan exhaled. Good. Another pause. I told you everything would be fine. Emily closed her eyes. You told me. I meant. Nathan corrected himself. I knew the doctors would handle it. Another long silence. Nathan continued. I've already arranged a private postpartum chef. I upgraded your recovery suite. I ordered flowers. The babies each have education trusts now. And I transferred another $1 million into your account. Emily listened quietly. Not once. Did he ask how much pain she was in? Not once. Did he ask whether she had been afraid? Not once. Did he apologize? Finally, she asked softly. Did you enjoy the cake? Nathan froze. What? Sophia's birthday. Silence. I saw the video. Nathan sighed. It wasn't like that. It was business. Emily almost laughed. Business. Apparently birthdays counted as business now. He continued. You know investors were there. I couldn't leave. Emily looked through the NICU window. 3 tiny babies. 3 tiny futures. Nathan. I signed my own surgical consent. Silence. The doctor asked who should decide if I lived or died. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. You weren't there. Emily's voice stayed calm. So I chose for myself. Nathan rubbed his forehead on the other end. Emily, let's not make this emotional. I wasn't emotionally unavailable. I was physically unavailable. The outcome would have been exactly the same. Emily stared at the incubators. No, it wouldn't. Nathan frowned. What do you mean? You would have known. Your children were born. Silence. For nearly 10 seconds. Neither spoke. Finally, Nathan cleared his throat. I'll see you tomorrow. The line disconnected. Emily slowly lowered the phone. Lisa had heard everything. She looked horrified. He never apologized. Emily smiled sadly. No. He still thinks this conversation was about the surgery. That evening, Margaret Cole arrived carrying homemade chicken soup. Unlike Nathan, she didn't knock. She hurried straight to Emily. The older woman's eyes immediately filled with tears. Oh, sweetheart. Emily smiled. I'm okay. Margaret gently touched her forehead. No, you almost weren't. Emily looked away. Margaret sat beside the bed. I found out everything. Emily didn't ask how. She already knew. Daniel. Or Lisa. Someone had finally told the truth. Margaret opened the thermos. Steam rose into the room. I made your favorite. Emily hadn't eaten all day. The smell alone almost made her cry. Margaret fed her one careful spoonful at a time. Exactly the way Emily's own mother used to. Halfway through the meal, Margaret quietly asked, Do you still love my son? Emily didn't answer immediately. Instead, she watched 3 nurses adjusting the baby's incubators through the glass. Finally, she whispered, I don't know. Another spoonful. But I know something worse. Margaret looked up. Emily's voice remained calm. I don't think I respect him anymore. The older woman's hand froze. Because she knew. Love sometimes survived betrayal. Respect rarely did. And once respect disappeared, marriages usually followed. That night, while everyone slept, Emily opened the notes app on her phone. Instead of writing about Nathan, she wrote something else. A numbered list. 1. Call attorney Olivia Grant. 2. Request copies of company incorporation documents. 3. Retrieve old laptop from basement storage. 4. Open personal consulting account. 5. Find a new home before discharge. She looked at the list. For the first time in years, every plan she made didn't include Nathan. She pressed save. Outside the NICU, 3 tiny heart monitors continued blinking steadily. Inside Emily's heart, something else had quietly stopped. Not her love. Not yet. Her waiting. The following morning, Nathan Cole stepped out of his black Bentley wearing a tailored charcoal suit that looked more appropriate for a shareholders' meeting than a maternity ward. His driver hurried behind him carrying shopping bags from Hermes, Tiffany, Dior, and Cartier. 2 hospital security guards exchanged glances. One whispered, Is he visiting his wife? Or opening a luxury boutique? Nathan ignored them. He had always believed problems had price tags. Flowers. Jewelry. Money. Once those arrived, everything usually returned to normal. He checked his reflection in the elevator mirror. Perfect. Confident. In control. Exactly the image everyone expected from the CEO of Cole Learning Systems. When he entered Emily's recovery suite, he smiled automatically. Morning. No answer. Emily sat near the window in a wheelchair wearing a loose cream-colored maternity robe. Her face was pale. Dark circles framed her eyes. But something else had changed. The woman who used to brighten the room whenever he walked in didn't even look up. She was reading. Not a novel. Not parenting advice. A thick folder labeled Property Transfer Requirements. Nathan frowned. What are you reading? Emily calmly turned another page. Paperwork. He laughed. Already? You should be resting. Still no answer. Nathan nodded toward the shopping bags. I brought you something. One by one. His driver placed them on the sofa. Tiffany. Hermes. Cartier. Dior. The room suddenly looked like the VIP lounge of Fifth Avenue. Nathan smiled proudly. I wasn't sure which bracelet you'd like, so I bought all four. Lisa nearly dropped the glass she was holding. Emily looked over. That's expensive. Nathan relaxed. Finally. A reaction. He smiled. You deserve it. Emily nodded thoughtfully, then looked back at her paperwork. I don't want them. Nathan blinked. What? You should return them. Silence. Nathan actually laughed. You're serious? Emily turned another page. I've never been more serious. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Finally, Nathan pulled up a chair. Emily. She looked up. He leaned forward. I know you're upset. Reasonable. Expected. But let's be adults. Emily waited. I missed the birth. I admit that. But the babies are healthy. You're alive. I'm here now. So. He spread his hands confidently. What exactly are we still arguing about? Lisa stared at him in disbelief. Emily simply asked. How many times did I call? Nathan frowned. I don't know. Maybe 2. 3. Lisa actually laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. Emily answered quietly. 17. Nathan shifted awkwardly. I didn't know that. You turned your phone off. I had meetings. You turned your phone off. The investors. You turned your phone off. Every sentence she spoke sounded softer than the one before, which somehow made them hurt more. Nathan rubbed his temple. I've already explained. It wasn't intentional. Emily tilted her head. I know. Nathan looked relieved. Then she continued. You intentionally attended Sophia's birthday. You intentionally stayed for dinner. You intentionally smiled for photographs. You intentionally switched your phone off. You intentionally ignored your assistant. You intentionally missed your children's birth. Another silence. Nathan realized, for the first time, that Emily wasn't speaking emotionally. She was speaking factually. And facts were much harder to argue with. He changed tactics. Fine. I made mistakes. But I also built everything we have. Emily finally looked directly into his eyes. Did you? Nathan frowned. What does that mean? Emily smiled faintly. Nothing. Forget I asked. Just then, someone knocked. Come in. A woman in a navy pantsuit entered carrying a leather briefcase. Olivia Grant, one of New York's most respected divorce attorneys. Nathan recognized her instantly. His smile disappeared. What is she doing here? Olivia extended a hand toward Emily. Good morning. Emily shook it. Thank you for coming. Nathan looked between them. Emily? Olivia opened her briefcase. I'll need your signature on several documents. Nathan stood. What documents? Olivia didn't even acknowledge him. Emily signed the first page, then the second, then the third. Nathan finally stepped closer. I asked you a question. Olivia calmly replied. My client has instructed me not to discuss legal matters with anyone except her. My client. Nathan stared at Emily. Legal. Emily capped the pen. Yes. Nathan laughed nervously. You actually hired a divorce lawyer? Emily looked genuinely confused. I thought the petition made that obvious. Nathan's smile vanished. You were serious. I've never been more serious. Olivia removed another folder. This concerns emergency financial protection. Nathan's expression hardened. What financial protection? Emily answered. I'm separating my personal assets. Nathan scoffed. What personal assets? Emily didn't respond immediately. Instead, she asked Olivia. Did you bring the records? Olivia nodded. She slid a thin folder across the table. Emily pushed it toward Nathan. He glanced down. His confident expression slowly faded. Inside were scanned documents, invoices, patent registrations, Early software prototypes. Educational curriculum drafts. Every page carried one name. Emily Rose Carter. Her maiden name. Nathan frowned. Where did you get these? Emily answered simply. My files. He flipped another page. Then another. His breathing slowed. Dates. 7 years earlier. Before the company had even officially existed. What is this? Emily folded her hands. The first reading curriculum. Nathan looked confused. So, the one your company still licenses? Yes, I designed it. Nathan laughed. Emily, you helped. She didn't argue. Instead, she pointed toward another page. Original copyright registration. Registered solely under her name. Nathan stopped smiling. He flipped faster. Every major educational module. Every foundational teaching framework. Every original learning system. Had one creator listed. Emily. Not Cole Learning Systems. Not Nathan. Emily. His confidence cracked slightly. This doesn't matter. Emily calmly asked. Are you sure? Before Nathan could answer, Olivia spoke for the first time. It matters considerably. Nathan looked at her. She continued calmly. If these registrations are upheld, ownership of several core educational products becomes legally disputed. Nathan stared, then laughed again. This time, it sounded forced. You planned this? Emily slowly shook her head. No, I created them. You simply forgot. Nathan suddenly remembered something. The basement apartment. 7 years ago. Emily working late every night on lesson plans while he pitched investors. He'd always introduced her as, my wife helps with formatting. Formatting. That was what he'd called years of her work. Emily watched realization slowly appear across his face. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply asked one quiet question. Nathan, do you know what our oldest curriculum is called? He answered immediately. Bright Futures. Emily nodded. Do you know why I named it that? Nathan opened his mouth, then stopped. He had no idea. Emily looked toward the NICU through the glass wall. I named it after the future I thought we were building together. She stood carefully from the wheelchair. Every movement still hurt. But now, she picked up the folder. I'm finally building one for my children. Nathan stood frozen. For the first time, he wasn't facing his gentle, forgiving wife. He was facing the woman who had quietly built half his empire and had finally decided to stop letting him take the credit. Nathan didn't speak for nearly a full minute. He kept flipping through the documents. Every page made his expression darker. Lesson plans. Interactive learning systems. Early reading frameworks. Prototype teaching modules. Every one carried Emily's copyright registration date. Each one predated the incorporation of Cole Learning Systems. Finally, he looked up. This is ridiculous. Emily waited. You drew lesson plans. You didn't build a company. Olivia calmly adjusted her glasses. My client never claimed she built the company alone. Nathan folded his arms. Then what exactly is the point of all this? Emily looked him directly in the eye. I built the foundation. And foundations matter. Nathan laughed. Not because he found it funny. Because he was trying to convince himself none of this mattered. Even if these copyrights are valid, the company has been using them for 7 years. Emily nodded. Correct. So. Olivia slid another document across the table. Nathan glanced down. His confident expression slowly disappeared. Notice of copyright termination. He frowned. What is this? Olivia answered calmly. 7 years ago, Mrs. Cole granted your company a royalty-free license. Nathan relaxed. There. I knew it. Olivia continued. Please continue reading. Nathan's eyes moved lower. Halfway down the page, his heartbeat skipped. A single paragraph. One sentence. This authorization remains valid only while the marriage between both parties remains legally intact. Nathan blinked. Then read it again. No. His voice had become almost a whisper. Emily quietly said, You never read what I signed. You just signed where your lawyer pointed. Nathan looked up sharply. You added this? No. I protected my work. For the first time. Nathan felt something unfamiliar. Not anger. Fear. Real fear. His phone rang. He answered immediately. Yes. His chief financial officer sounded breathless. Sir, we've got a problem. Nathan turned away from Emily. What now? The licensing department just called. So? They've received notice from Mrs. Grant's office. Nathan froze. What notice? The legal department says several curriculum licenses may become disputed if divorce proceedings continue. Nathan's jaw tightened. I'll handle it. He ended the call. Emily quietly watched him. No satisfaction. No smug smile. Only calm. That somehow frightened him even more. He suddenly changed his tone. Emily. She looked up. We don't need lawyers. We can settle this privately. Emily smiled politely. For 7 years. I tried private conversations. They never fit into your schedule. Nathan took a deep breath. Fine. What do you want? Emily answered immediately. A divorce. You'll get money. A divorce. I'll buy another house. A divorce. I'll retire early. A divorce. I'll spend more time at home. Emily looked at him quietly. You finally want to be present. After I almost died. Nathan couldn't answer. Just then, Daniel quietly appeared at the doorway. He looked uncomfortable. Sir. Nathan turned impatiently. What? We need to leave. Nathan frowned. I'm busy. Daniel hesitated. The board chairman has called twice. He says it's urgent. Nathan sighed heavily. Tell him I'll call back. Daniel swallowed. He specifically said, it's about Ms. Sophia Hart. Nathan's face changed. What happened? Daniel lowered his voice. The finance department found several payments. Nathan stiffened. What payments? Consulting payments. Nathan looked toward Emily. She calmly continued sipping water. Daniel continued. They're asking why your personal office approved $480,000 in consulting fees. To Hart Consulting. Nathan felt a cold knot form in his stomach. It was legitimate. Daniel nodded nervously. I know. But internal audit wants supporting documentation. Nathan answered immediately. Sophia managed the Midwest expansion. Daniel hesitated. There are no contracts. Nathan stared. What? No work reports. No deliverables. No invoices. Nathan suddenly remembered. He had personally approved those transfers. Because Sophia had helped. Nothing formal. Nothing documented. Just trust. Emily quietly spoke. I wondered when they'd notice. Nathan slowly turned. What? She looked at him. I started wondering 6 months ago. Why your company paid so much. For birthday dinners. His heartbeat stopped. You. Emily reached beside the hospital bed. Another folder. This one was thicker. Far thicker. She handed it to Olivia. Olivia slid it across the table. Nathan opened it. Restaurant receipts. Luxury hotel bookings. Private flight manifests. Jewelry purchases. Corporate expense reports. Highlighted. Cross-referenced. Every receipt matched dates Nathan claimed to be traveling for business. Every receipt matched Sophia's social media posts. Every single one. Nathan felt sick. You hired someone. Emily gently shook her head. No. I simply compared receipts. You posted the rest yourselves. Daniel slowly looked at Nathan. His expression had changed. For years. He had admired this man. Today, he wasn't sure he even knew him. Nathan slammed the folder shut. This proves nothing. Emily nodded. It proves enough. Nathan scoffed. For what? Olivia answered. For discovery. For forensic accounting. For a judge to authorize a deeper financial investigation. Nathan's breathing became heavier. This is harassment. Emily quietly replied. No. This is paperwork. Silence settled over the room. Finally, Nathan asked the question that had been haunting him. When? Emily looked toward the NICU. When what? When did you stop trusting me? Emily thought for a long moment. Then answered honestly. Not when I found the receipts. Not when I saw the birthday dinners. Not when I noticed the jewelry. Nathan waited. It was the day I had my anatomy scan. He frowned. What? I was 20 weeks pregnant. Emily's eyes never left the window. The doctor thought baby B had a heart defect. Nathan's face slowly changed. She continued. I called you 9 times. You texted me that you were presenting to investors. Nathan remembered. Barely. Emily looked back at him. Later that night, Sophia posted photos. Nathan felt his chest tighten. It wasn't a presentation. It was a wine tasting. The room fell silent. Emily smiled sadly. That was the day. I stopped believing your calendar. Nathan couldn't look at her anymore. For the first time, he realized something terrifying. Emily hadn't decided to leave because of one unanswered phone call. She had simply waited until the last lie became impossible to survive. Nathan didn't remember leaving the hospital. One moment he was standing beside Emily's bed. The next, he was sitting in the back of his Bentley, staring blankly through the tinted window as Manhattan drifted past. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about investors, or quarterly earnings, or acquisitions. He kept hearing one sentence. I stopped believing your calendar. He rubbed his forehead. Emily was emotional. That was all. She had almost died. Any reasonable person would overreact. Give her a few days. Buy something meaningful. Take a vacation. Everything would settle down. It always had. Back at Cole Learning Systems headquarters, the executive floor buzzed with its usual controlled chaos. Employees stepped out of Nathan's path. No one dared interrupt him. Except Daniel. Sir. Nathan didn't stop walking. What? The board chairman is waiting. 5 minutes. He said it couldn't wait. Nathan sighed and pushed open the conference room doors. 6 board members looked up simultaneously. The chairman didn't waste time. Nathan. We have a problem. Nathan loosened his tie. I've heard. The copyright issue? No. The chairman slid a tablet across the table. What is this? Nathan looked down. His stomach tightened. It was an article from a financial news website. Cole Learning Systems faces intellectual property dispute. The article wasn't long. Only 6 paragraphs. But one sentence stood out. The company may face litigation involving the ownership of several foundational educational systems. Nathan looked up. Who leaked this? The chief legal officer answered quietly. No one. It came from the public court filing. Nathan's jaw clenched. So remove it. The room fell silent. Finally, one board member spoke. That's not how court filings work. Nathan threw the tablet onto the table. This is ridiculous. My wife is throwing a tantrum. The chairman slowly folded his hands. Is she? Nathan frowned. What is that supposed to mean? The older man looked him straight in the eye. Nathan, I've known Emily for almost 8 years. She has never once raised her voice in a board meeting. Never once demanded credit. Never once embarrassed this company. He paused. So if she's finally willing to drag us into court, I'm inclined to believe something very serious happened. Nathan didn't answer. After the meeting, Daniel quietly entered Nathan's office carrying a stack of mail. These require your signature. Nathan barely looked. Leave them. Daniel hesitated. Sir. Nathan looked up impatiently. What now? A courier delivered these personally. He placed a plain brown envelope on the desk. No company logo. No return address. Only Nathan's name. He opened it. Inside was a flash drive. Nothing else. He frowned. What is this? Daniel shrugged. It was addressed only to you. Nathan plugged it into his laptop. A folder appeared. Home Security Archive. He clicked. Video files. Dated. Timestamped. He opened the first one. The foyer of their home. Emily. 8 months pregnant. Trying to carry 2 grocery bags while struggling to breathe. Nathan wasn't there. He opened another. Emily assembling a crib by herself. Another. Emily sitting alone eating dinner. Another. Emily falling asleep on the couch waiting. Timestamp. 11:48 p.m. Nathan never came home. Another. Emily decorating the nursery. Alone. Another. Emily standing by the living room window. Looking at her phone. Checking the driveway every few minutes. Timestamp. Their wedding anniversary. Nathan suddenly closed the laptop. His heartbeat had become strangely uneven. Who sent this? Daniel quietly answered. I don't know. Nathan looked back at the closed screen. He couldn't remember installing security cameras. Then he remembered. Emily had insisted after a break-in 2 years earlier. He had approved the expense. And forgotten they even existed. The cameras. Hadn't forgotten. That evening, Nathan drove home earlier than usual. The mansion felt enormous. Empty. The silence was unsettling. He walked into the master bedroom. Emily's favorite books were gone. Her slippers. Gone. Her perfume. Gone. The framed ultrasound pictures from the nightstand. Gone. He opened the closet. Half the hangers sat empty. Then he noticed something else. No, not empty. Organized. Emily hadn't stormed out. She hadn't packed in anger. Every shelf had been cleaned. Every drawer folded neatly. She had erased herself. With astonishing calm, Nathan opened the bathroom cabinet. Only his toothbrush remained. He stared at it for several seconds, then laughed bitterly. Seriously? He grabbed his phone. Called Emily. 1 ring. 2. She answered. Nathan. His shoulders relaxed. At least she hadn't blocked him. Where are you? With the babies. When are you coming home? A pause. I already am. Nathan frowned. What? I'm home. No. This is your home. Emily answered gently. No. It was our address. Not my home. Nathan's patience began slipping. Emily. I've tolerated this long enough. You've made your point. You hired lawyers. You embarrassed me publicly. You frightened the board. You've punished me. Now come home. Emily didn't respond immediately. Instead, she asked, Do you know where the triplets are sleeping tonight? Nathan blinked. What? Do you know which baby drinks the fastest? Silence. Which one cries first? Silence. Which one hates being swaddled? Nathan looked toward the empty nursery. Emily continued. You don't know. And that's okay. They're only 4 days old. Another pause. But here's what isn't okay. You chose not to know. Nathan felt something tighten inside his chest. It wasn't like that. Emily sighed softly. I used to explain your behavior to everyone. He's busy. He's building our future. He'll make it up later. She laughed quietly. I even lied to myself. Nathan leaned against the bedroom wall. Emily. I'm trying. No. She interrupted. You're negotiating. There's a difference. After the call ended, Nathan wandered downstairs. Margaret sat in the kitchen drinking tea. She looked at him once, then continued reading her book. Nathan sat opposite her. Mom. She turned a page. What? You've talked to Emily. Yes. Where is she? Margaret calmly sipped her tea. I'm not telling you. Nathan stared. I'm her husband. Margaret finally looked up. No. You were. Nathan laughed in disbelief. Seriously? You're taking her side? Margaret closed the book. I'm taking the side of the woman who signed her own surgical consent because my son couldn't answer a phone. Nathan looked away. It wasn't that simple. Margaret nodded. You're right. It wasn't. It was much worse. She stood and carried her cup to the sink. You know what hurt me the most? Nathan didn't answer. When you were born, I was 19. Terrified. I didn't have money. I didn't have help. But if someone had called and told me you needed me, I would have crawled barefoot through broken glass. Her voice cracked. You turned your phone off. The kitchen became painfully quiet. Margaret picked up her purse. I'm visiting my grandchildren tomorrow. Nathan looked up hopefully. I'll come with you. She shook her head. No. Emily invited me. She didn't invite you. The front door closed behind her. Nathan remained seated alone at the kitchen table. For the first time in years, the mansion didn't feel luxurious. It felt abandoned. He suddenly realized something that made his stomach sink. Emily wasn't trying to make him suffer. She was simply building a life that no longer required him. 3 days later, Emily was discharged from the hospital with the triplets. There were no photographers, no dramatic speeches, just 3 tiny babies, and one exhausted mother finally going home. Except, she wasn't going back to the mansion. A quiet white house waited instead. Small, warm, peaceful. Exactly the kind of home she had dreamed about long before Nathan became a billionaire. As she carried the first baby inside, she smiled. This feels like home. At the same time, Nathan unlocked the front door of the mansion. Emily? Silence. He checked the nursery. Empty. The master bedroom. Half the closet was bare. Her books were gone. Her favorite coffee mug was gone. Even the framed ultrasound photos had disappeared. She hadn't left in anger. She had left with intention. Then he noticed a folded note on the nursery chair. It wasn't a goodbye letter. It was the checklist Emily had packed before going into labor. Heavy checkmark baby clothes. Heavy checkmark insurance papers. Heavy checkmark phone charger. Heavy checkmark Nathan's favorite coffee. Heavy checkmark remind Nathan to eat if labor takes a long time. Nathan stared at the last line. Even while preparing to deliver triplets, she had been thinking about him. He slowly sat in the rocking chair. For the first time, the mansion didn't feel luxurious. It felt empty. The next morning, Nathan walked into an emergency board meeting. Richard Lawson didn't waste time. We've reviewed Mrs. Cole's legal filing. Nathan folded his arms. So, Richard slid a folder across the table. The original curriculum copyrights are registered under Emily's name. Nathan frowned. She's my wife. Richard looked at him. She's also the plaintiff. The room fell silent. If the court upholds those registrations, Richard continued, our largest licensing contracts could be frozen. For the first time, Nathan realized this wasn't just a divorce. It was a crisis. As soon as the meeting ended, he called Sophia. She answered immediately. Did you fix it? I'm working on it. There was a pause. Then she quietly asked, they're not going to investigate me, right? Nathan closed his eyes. I don't know. The silence that followed said everything. Sophia wasn't worried about him. She was worried about herself. Nathan ended the call without another word. For the first time, he wondered if the woman he had sacrificed everything for would sacrifice anything for him. The next morning, Nathan met with the board. No one smiled. Richard Lawson placed a folder in front of him. The auditors found no records showing Sophia completed the consulting work she was paid for. Nathan tried to respond. They weren't traditional assignments. But even he knew how weak it sounded. Richard looked him in the eye. We're not judging your affair. We're protecting the company. Then came the final blow. Until this investigation is over, you're suspended as CEO. Nathan quietly removed his company ID and placed it on the table. No one stopped him from leaving. Outside, his phone rang. Sophia. He answered immediately. Nathan. My lawyer says I need to distance myself from all of this. He frowned. What are you talking about? I can't be dragged into your divorce. Our divorce. She sighed. No. Your divorce. And your company. Nathan realized what was happening. You've already decided. I have. She hung up. Nathan lowered the phone. Emily had walked away because he failed her. Sophia walked away because he could no longer benefit her. For the first time, he understood the difference. Nathan sat alone in his office. No board seat. No assistant. No calls. Just silence. For years, he had believed success meant being needed by everyone. Now, the company didn't need him. Sophia didn't want him. And Emily had learned how to live without him. A week later, the first court hearing took place. Emily sat calmly beside Olivia. Nathan barely looked up. The judge reviewed the filings, then made a temporary ruling. The children will remain primarily with Mrs. Cole. Nathan nodded. He expected it. The disputed copyrights will remain under court protection until final settlement. Another nod. His lawyers had already warned him. After the hearing, Nathan caught up to Emily outside. Emily. She stopped. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Nathan quietly asked, was there anything I could have done to stop this? Emily looked at him sadly. Yes. Nathan waited. You could have answered your phone. She turned and walked away. leaving Nathan standing alone on the courthouse steps. For the first time, he realized he hadn't lost his family in court. He had lost them weeks earlier, the night he chose someone else's birthday over his wife and children. End of Part 10. Next. Part 11, She Won Without Looking Back. 1 month later. The final hearing lasted less than an hour. Nathan's lawyers advised him not to fight. The evidence was clear. Emily kept the copyrights she had created. Primary custody of the triplets remained with her. Nathan signed the divorce papers without saying a word. When the judge declared the marriage dissolved, Emily quietly exhaled. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like peace. Outside the courthouse, reporters rushed toward Nathan. "Mr. Cole, do you regret what happened?" Nathan stopped. For a long moment, he looked at the cameras, then said quietly, "I didn't lose my family because of one mistake. I lost them because I kept choosing everything else." Without another word, he walked away. That evening, Emily sat on the porch of her new home. The triplets slept peacefully inside. She smiled as she looked through the window. The life she once begged Nathan to make time for had become her reality. Without him, sometimes revenge wasn't taking everything from someone. Sometimes, it was showing them you were always capable of living happily without them.